Okay, gonna click live. Three, two, and we're live.
Hey, what's up, Wayne? Glad to see you here. We're live, Ball and Breakfast podcast. Day before the big draft coming up tomorrow for the NFL. We're gonna run through one last mock here. Hopefully, there's some changes from the last time we did, 2.0, 1.0. So, folks, if you're here, go check that out on YouTube. Go to Ball and Breakfast, and we have just a huge vault of different videos across different sports. But definitely check that stuff out. I guess for tonight, we'll do odds and evens as we go back and forth with each one of these picks in the first round and kind of talk through, who will take, which player. I guess we can start off with the Bears if you're good with it, but I think there's no secret here. It's going to be our boy Caleb Williams already, excited about chasing, Tom Brady's legacy as a Chicago Bear. Couldn't be happier to hear, that kind of confidence coming from a quarterback. So, yeah, just ship him over and let's get this thing started.
Yeah, let's just ship them over. Let's take care of that. And then, I think the one thing that I was trying to debate about is the over under. Maybe I want to hear your opinion, Pat, about how many touchdown passes do you think Caleb Williams will have in his rookie season? I think the last time I checked, it was initially 19 and a half in terms of touchdowns, total touchdowns over under. Then I saw it actually escalate up 1 point to 20 and a half. So, what are your thoughts on those odds?
Oh man, I'm going way over there, way over. I mean, when you posed that, I thought when you posed that, I thought you were throwing the number over to me, and I was like instantly thinking like low 30s because I'm thinking 17 games. Could he average two a game? Like that'd be great, and that's kind of what we're drafting him for. But I think this team's going to have enough playmakers around him to chase that kind of number, even in his rookie year. I mean, it's a loftier number, but yeah, if you're going to tell me just like a touchdown per game, just a little bit over that, like yeah, give me the over for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I expect he's going to be starting immediately, and I think the wishful thinking, obviously, for Bears fans, is he's healthy through all 17 games. So I think that all those things are into consideration for that. But I'm definitely betting the over, even for the 20 and a half. I know there's a lot of rookie records out there. Rookie in terms of touchdowns, right? I think how much did CJ Stroud have last year? I think he had like what 22, 23 or something, maybe a little bit more. So, but I know, I think he's definitely capable of putting up some numbers there. He's got the wide receiver talent. Maybe he's going to get some more here, and then obviously Cole Kmet as well. So, I'm very bullish on those odds there.
Yeah, CJ Stroud had 23 last year, 23 to five interceptions. That's crazy to just kind of hear though. It sounds so low, like he only had 23 touchdowns. Like I'm just kind of
Yeah.
I don't know. He had an amazing year, and that was an amazing year. So I'm a little bit shocked, but
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely put up a lot of yardage, but yeah, I think he got more comfortable. I think wide out talent, maybe the later half, I believe. So, um, but yeah, I guess let's move on to number two here now. I guess for the Washington Commanders. So there's definitely been I think this debate between the quarterbacks. I've even seen JJ McCarthy even rising up the ranks and kind of pushing ahead on some mock drafts, but I'm not going to overthink it that much. I still think Jaden Daniels is who they take here. Again, I think we've talked about Marcus Mariota, right? Is who they got. And I just believe that, hey, look, Jaden Daniels, I think he's a great person or Marcus Mariota, I think would be a pretty decent quarterback for Jaden Daniels to learn from. And I'm just going to take him, move on to the next one here.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm drafting in this slot, I know the JJ McCarthy noise has gotten really loud. They seem to have, this debate in the top three, of him going into one of those slots. I think um, it's a little bit, overzealous, I would say. I mean, I think that he can probably be a good quarterback in this league. There's a lot that I like about him intangibles wise and kind of what he showed, in his years at Michigan. But in the same sense, like I think Drake May is a different prospect. I think he gives you just the physical tools you need right off the bat to be just a great like pitcher and for a bunch of catchers and stuff. Like I just feel like he does have that Justin Herbert vibe to him, and I don't know where New England stands. Like I don't know how willing they would be to entertain offers, but if I'm them, I'm going to be asking for the moon, and I just don't know if that'll all line up for them to kind of release that number 3 pick. So put Drake May over there on the Pats. I don't see them trading out of that slot, and I think they, have their franchise quarterback right there.
Yeah, I mean, the only consideration I would have obviously is like, what would happen then? Yeah, if the Vikings, right? I think that's the big wild card in a way. Like, what if they're just like, we really want Drake May. We're gonna give you our 2 first round picks, maybe a couple other additional picks. Like, if I am the Patriots, do you consider that, or are you like, we need a quarterback yesterday? Let's get Drake May or whomever, right? But yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't think it's something you just shun away and not consider. I mean, if they put a couple of first round, picks on the table, maybe they offer next year's pick or something else or a player, I would listen to it. Justin Jefferson, maybe like that's a possibility. I just think, of the guys that have just been drafted here, 1 through 3, these guys kind of stand in their own tier when it comes to this year's quarterback class. I feel like if you trade down, trade out of that slot, like you're taking another gamble at quarterback when let's say Mac Jones was kind of that slight first round gamble in the draft class they had, where they were grabbing a quarterback last time. I feel like you just want a sure thing here, and if you walk away with the 11 and the 23, like you're not really guaranteeing yourself like great odds of having that franchise quarterback this year. Maybe if they have other needs they want to address first, and then go back into next year's draft with the number 1 overall pick, perhaps go quarterback there. And for next year, like it's just another thing you're flipping a quarter on. Like you don't really know where you'll land. You don't know how good or how bad your team's going to be. And I think in your first year with Gerard Mayo, you just want to have that like cemented. I would just feel so much more secure as a first year head coach and as a team trying to kind of transition over just to have your franchise guy there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That being said, it's like, yeah, if you get 3 first round picks, like, do you take a consideration of that? I mean, again, we don't know exactly how desperate maybe the Vikings might get there, but if, I definitely would love to see Drake May on the Vikings. Though I think he makes perfect sense for what they're trying to flip the bill there. So, but yeah, let's moving on. I think Drake May there. Cardinals now. I know we've had talks and conversations about trades here, but unless the Vikings do jump in here and offer those 2 first round picks, I'm actually just gonna go ahead and take Marvin Harrison Jr. Like I've kind of gone back and forth of do I, want to I guess listen to some of these offers, but honestly, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's been deemed as like the best wide receiving prospect, in ages. Also, again, if I'm the Cardinals, like we have multiple picks in like the top 60. Like let's load up on the best available talent. Maybe it's like, yeah, let's utilize Marvin Harrison Jr. I know in previous mock drafts we've done trade backs where they had 3 first round picks, which certainly could happen. But again, Marvin Harrison Jr. I think is a solid pick for them that he'll start immediately. And a lot of people say he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So like, let's ride with that. Let's ride that. It's good Kyle Murray some weapons there. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of push the button here.
All right, but what if I'm the Giants and I give you a call and I offer you the number 6 overall pick, and I want to give you maybe 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 a second from this year's as well, maybe a second in next year's class. Like I'm willing to give you a few assets there just to move down a couple of picks so I can grab our quarterback of the future. Like, how would you feel about that, even if you're just moving down slightly?
Well, bro, I just pressed the button. But no, to your point, I mean, again, I would consider it, and I definitely like that capital right in a deep draft. I do think though, if I am the Cardinals, it's like, am I that much better if I take maybe the second or third cornerback in this draft or second or third defensive end, kind of with that extra draft capital more so of than if I were to say take Marvin Harrison Jr. as opposed to like Malik Neighbors there at that sixth spot, right? Um, for me, Marvin Harrison Jr. the real deal here, and yeah, I think I'm good with the draft capital I have. I'll make those moves and adjustments as needed here, but like yeah, having a talent like that, I'm gonna take my top pick there.
Yeah. And Arizona's in a position, like you said, with 12 draft picks in this class where it's like they can go ahead and just like make their picks. I mean, they've already kind of loaded up on draft capital. They're not necessarily hungry for it. But if there is a scenario where maybe they, move down and then move back up like they did last year, like maybe that's some like funky gameplay the GM can pull out. But I tend to agree with you. If I have my first choice and I need a wide receiver, like go for the guy that everyone's saying is going to be a surefire Hall of Famer. Like you got to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So now that the fifth pick is, I guess, in your reigns, and you also have the Vikings picks, do you make this trade there? Because yeah, there's some teams that might want JJ McCarthy now.
Yeah. My phones are open. I'm ready to swing a deal. I will draft here if I have to. But I feel like there's other teams with needs at wide receiver or quarterback that are going to be hungry enough to come after, this slot and trade with me. And, just based on the team's needs, I mean, we want to, be able to help out Justin Herbert, give him, some guys he can go to after all the losses we've had this year. But in the same sense, like we need as much help as we can possibly get in so many different areas that I'm not necessarily like gung ho about I have to move down just a couple slots. So Minnesota makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, if they want to come to the table with those first two rounders, I think in the last mock we agreed to that. If there's even some more sweeteners on that, like a next year, second, third, whatever else, like I'm open to offers there. So, yeah, feel free to ship my pick over to the Vikings if they want to make that deal here. I'm looking at other teams too. I mean, how serious would the Rams be? They've got a lot of draft capital. Like, would they want to move up to grab McCarthy to, be the guy waiting in the wings for Stafford? Like, I don't know. Maybe. I see Cincinnati's got picks, but they got Joe Burrow, Green Bay, San Fran. Probably not. So, yeah, if Minnesota makes the most sense, like I'm open to that deal.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense. And if I'm the Chargers, I'm going to be looking to trade back. Yeah, there's some, good tackle talent, which I know, like with Harbaugh, he definitely is very much into building out from the line. They do need wideouts. Like, who's Justin Herbert going to throw to has been the biggest question, I think, this offseason now. And, they can definitely load up, I think, on the wide receiver talent in second, third round. Like, again, trading back a little bit, now that they have this Viking pick, that 23rd pick, like that certainly opens things up there. There's still, wide receivers that they can take there. So, but yeah, I think this trade, again, if the Vikings really want, say, JJ McCarthy, they're definitely going to be trading up in the top five here. So, and then I guess now with that, who do the Vikings take here? Is it JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think we definitely need that up and coming quarterback prospect to get our franchise moving in the right direction like the other competitors in the NFC North. I mean, we cannot sit on our hands and, do a Sam Darnold full year. We had a similar type year last year with Cousins out. It just did not work for us. We need to kind of go all in, and I think JJ's got the moxie to be that guy. He just needs, that tutelage, and I think that's what Kevin O'Connell is here for. I know our ownership and even our GM are really pressing on us to make a real move. Like, and this is our move. So we're all in here. He's our guy, and we're gonna make the most of it.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I think he makes the most sense. Probably the second most sense, I would say, to Kevin O'Connell hit that system. There would be probably like Penix, right? I think he would be tremendous in that system. But JJ McCarthy, young, I think he's what 21, like fresh 21 and everything. Like he's got a lot to learn, and I think that's a great situation for him. So, and then I guess yeah, moving on to the sixth pick here with the Giants. They definitely need offensive line help, but I think with the talent that I see here at wideout compared to also tackle here, do you take Joe Alt? Possibly. I would not be surprised if they do necessarily, but Malik Neighbors and that kind of X factor talent, they do have like 1 year, I guess, more so now with Daniel Jones. So let's get him some weapons. Let's get the next quarterback some weapons there. They've kind of put together a hodgepodge of wide receiver talents before and have, Jalen Hyatt there as well. But Malik Neighbors, I think he just foots the bill for what they're trying to do. And I think that sets themselves up pretty well for some the next picks. But yeah, they definitely need some offensive line talent. But I'm going to go here with Neighbors. I think he makes most sense. LSU wideouts at New York, tend to do okay, I think, with Odell, right? So I think Malik Neighbors is their pick here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, based on their signings in the offseason on the offensive line, like they tried to go out and address those in free agency to kind of set up a move like this. I'm just trying to think, is there any scenario where the Giants are open to trading back at all? Are there any trade partners in this mix that are eager for that wide receiver, of a Malik like Neighbors ilk, a Roma Dunze type? So I know we talked. I mean, Indianapolis has been in the news as wanting to move up to grab one of those top three guys. What could they potentially offer the Giants? For it, they could obviously do a pick swap. They've got a third, a fourth, a fifth. Like, how much would it take really to get it done, and what would be intriguing to the Giants at this point? I mean, do you see any sort of wiggle room there if you're the Giants?
Yeah, potentially. If they are able to get, say, a first and a second, right, from the Colts, like you mentioned, like that could be something to consider. Just getting that again, more capital within, say, the top 60 here. So, you know, uh, Neighbors or Dunze, I think could work well for the Colts. It's not. I think there's more of a margin or a smaller margin between Adunze and Neighbors than say maybe, at least in my opinion, than say Marvin Harrison between those two. At the same time, it's kind of thin. So either of those wide receivers can go, ahead of each other there. But yeah, like why not? Especially with Anthony Richardson, right? Looked pretty good when he was kind of starting there. Just got hurt, and now the full reins are on him. Like why not load up on some more weapons, and why not try to get that sure thing there at the wideout position. But then yeah, if you're the Giants, like do you pass up on a Neighbors for even that more draft capital? Maybe, maybe not. So, but yeah, I think that's just definitely going to be something for the Giants to consider there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think if they were provided an offer that would give them multiple picks in the early rounds, the first three rounds of this draft, I think maybe they would consider it, especially if they were just moving down. Even if you get to the 15 slot in the Indianapolis slot, like you could still draft probably like a Brian Thomas and then, have some additional draft capital
Hmm.
beyond that. That might be intriguing to them, but they've just been like a wide receiver. Like there's been a mass exodus there, like since Beckham left. That I feel like politically for their fan base, they like have to stay in the slot and grab that premier wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are some tackles going to be available in like second, third round, right? That I feel like, maybe more the right tackle. They got Thomas there still. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe add a tackle, a couple guard talent here and there. I think that can be addressed, for them in the second, third round more so of. That being said, all Fashanu, uh, you know, Fuega, like all of them can, I think, be good additions for them if they do trade back. But yeah, I think Neighbors. I think they're gonna buy in a little bit in the hype there now for Neighbors, for that fan base.
Yeah, I've also heard people saying that Neighbors is like some of their like is a dark horse favorite of theirs of wide receiver prospects in this draft, like above Marvin Harrison too. So like you get that kind of chatter going, you probably want to discover it for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So no, I'm all for it. But yeah, I guess moving on to the Tennessee Titans there at 7. Who do you got them taking here now?
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this one. Won't be too long-winded about it. They went out and they've got Calvin Ridley in the offseason. They've got DeAndre Hopkins. They have um um who's their third wide receiver? He's pretty notable. Anyways,
Oh, they got
he's
Burks,
a good
right?
wide receiver. Yeah, Traylon Burks. It's like they've got enough weapons there. I feel like on the outside to keep them okay for now. Could they go out and get Odunze? Maybe, but looking at their other needs, edge rusher and offensive line, like I just feel like the two tackles they've really talked about a lot. I mean, we've talked about Joe Alt going above this number, or if Fashanu is more of like your developmental type prospect. I've seen Fashanu moving down more recently in drafts. We'll see what actually happens on draft night, but Alt just seems to be like the sure thing that everybody's like, for sure, he's locked, he's loaded. And Will Levis, he needs somebody like that to be protecting him on the the front line, I guess, in his second year. I mean, he's kind of a maverick with the ball. Like they want him to kind of make smart decisions this year, but also like have some more time to make those decisions too. So shouldn't be a hard pick here. I think Alt's like for sure a slam dunk at number 7.
Yeah, I think he's been like the most consistent pick, I think, for the Titans in like mock drafts I've seen. So not gonna sweat it. I think he kind of fits kind of what they're looking for and what they're gearing up for here. So yeah, I'm gonna take Joe
Yeah.
Alt there. And then I guess Falcons here. You know, it seems like they've just been primed to take a defensive lineman of some sort. The idea of them maybe taking a Dunze, winding up on wideout. I think that they are trying to balance out with their defense. Kind of get some young talent there. So that's where for me it seems like they're kind of gearing towards getting Dallas Turner here. So again, it would be interesting to see if they do take a wideout or some other combination. I mean, take a corner or something. But yeah, I think they need defense. Especially on the line. So I'm gonna go Dallas Turner here. I've seen Byron Murphy kind of emerge as well. So, but at the same time, I think taking the best edge rusher for most NFL drafts and usually as the top defensive player taken. I think that's usually how it goes. So take that explosive talent, see if you can get some pass rush there, and that really is a great way to build up your team there.
Yeah, I think that's a smart pick for Atlanta. They definitely need, edge rushing talent. They could go ahead and add obviously another pass catcher there to really take their team to another level, or add a premier, line prospect to protect Cousins. But that whole defensive line's gotten hollowed out. Free agency wasn't really a very competent one last year too. So for sure, just that makes a lot of sense there, and no need to really argue it. Number 9, Chicago. This is our favorite pick. We've talked about this a lot. We've got videos all over our YouTube page for it. I'll keep it short and sweet just because you can go there and check it out, all those debates that we've already had. But like Rome Dunze here makes a lot of sense. I mean, the fact that he's been taking reps from Caleb Williams, he's been kind of practicing with Keenan Allen from what I've been hearing. It's like he's ready to be a Chicago Bear, and I'm ready to have him on our team. Like it makes a lot of sense for us because this is a walk year for Keenan Allen. So hopefully Keenan, does his thing, balls out for us, wants to, join the party again for years to come. But if in the case that he wants to leave for more money, or it's just a better fit elsewhere, or his body just kind of doesn't hold up over the course of this, upcoming year, he's, getting into his mid 30s. We need a guy that we can also pair across from DJ Moore for the long, haul. And we need a guy who Caleb Williams can build that rapport with. And, if there's one thing that we know best as Bears fans is like having a high octane offense, like doesn't happen very often. And I think, Poles going out and doing this and kind of cementing, his legacy as a GM, this would put the cherry on top for the offense. And I think all Bears fans would appreciate it. The one thing that sits with me though is the fact that he traditionally, comes from the Chiefs, and they had a philosophy of not drafting wide receivers in the first round. So will that philosophy come into play here? Will he, fall back on maybe his, you know, more disciplinary type approach to drafts and kind of positional value in that sense, and kind of lean maybe towards an edge rusher, trading down, or does he want to go get that other top tier offensive line prospect in Fashanu and just have his blindside tackle kind of taken care of for the future.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the best question. I feel like all the fans want Odunze, right? But then maybe like the over analytical, NFL mock draft Bears fans, maybe they want to gear more towards, say, an edge rusher or even Byron Murphy. Solidify that three tech, which in Eberflus's defense is very valuable. So, but yeah, I think Odunze is exciting, and we can. There's definitely I think some pieces here and there still in free agency that we can add in there for the edge rush position, solidifying the defensive line a little bit. And we still have a really good defense, so I think that's key. And helping out, obviously, I've heard sometimes the best compliment for a young rookie quarterback is just having a standout defense. So while yes, adding in say Oyatu Latu or some defensive line help could help the Bears overall, and eventually I guess help out Caleb Williams. Yeah, having Odunze would just be so awesome. I feel like. That being said, this definitely is an opportunity to trade back. Ryan Poles definitely has a reputation of trading back, so it's really trying to figure out who wants to move up. Who really wants some of this other talent that's out there that maybe might reach. I think we've discussed this in the past of maybe the Broncos try to move up with whatever draft capital they have, or maybe the Raiders try to move up too. So we'll see. I think what happens there, but yeah, I think Odunze would be an exciting pick, and love that he's playing with Caleb Williams. Kind of leading up to the draft here. So, but
Yeah. I could definitely see a scenario where, I mean, I talked about the Bengals and the Rams having probably the most draft capital of any teams in this year's draft, just in sheer number and some pretty high value picks. But, with the Rams losing Aaron Donald,
mhm.
with Cincinnati, having Trey Hendrickson request a trade, I mean, if Dallas
Mm.
Turner was still on the board at number 9, I could see both of those teams maybe making that push, maybe seeing if they could offer the Bears, their pick in the first, maybe a third, maybe pair that with a fourth or a fifth as well. Like there could be some interesting things there because we are searching for that depth. But
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of wait to see, I guess, what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like you mentioned before, the Colts too. If they really want like Odunze, and then the Bears like, yeah, we'll take whatever edge rusher there is at the 15th pick, and then also see if we can get your second round pick like that. I think that would do it, and then take a wide out in the second round. I feel like that would also make sense for the Bears here too. So, but yeah, I guess we're going with the Odunze here and enjoying that with a smile on I think all Bears fans' faces here. So. And then I guess now moving on to the 10th pick here with the Jets on the clock. I think I've seen different mock drafts. I know we took Bowers last time, and I know there's a lot of excitement there. But obviously now it's like you see the offensive line talent. I think we've talked about before. I think Tyron Smith, right? He hasn't played a full season. He hasn't played a full season in like a decade or something like that. So, you know, Brock Bowers, I think that would be great. But I think I remember seeing something about, Aaron Rodgers. He's not really the best tight end type of quarterback. He doesn't really like throw into his tight ends as much. So, with that, and obviously, Conklin as well as there, he's decent. So, while Brock Bowers is a great talent, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Fashanu here, actually. I think you can utilize him in different ways. I think you can also utilize him in guard rookie season as well. I think there's, some weakness there, but yeah, at least in the tackle position, get that young talent. And then, yeah, if Tyron Smith ever does get hurt, you can kind of plug him in there. I know Fuago is also there as well. I've seen him kind of be mocked here as well, but I'm going to go Ola Fashanu. I think he makes a lot of sense, kind of what the Jets are trying to do right now.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. It sounds like a safe pick. It sounds like one that would further protect, an ailing Aaron Rodgers coming back from an Achilles injury, keep him upright for the season. All three wide receiver prospects are now off the board. So again, like you're saying, if you're going with a tight end, he's not accustomed to making, those types of, plays or those types of throws very often. If that's something not something he's really comfortable with, then don't force it there. But yeah, I think that's a good fallback or a good, security type option for him, moving into his age 41, 42 season, whatever it is at this point.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think it makes sense. He needs to not he needs to be remain he needs to be on the field. That's where he's gonna get the most value, right? So
No doubt. I guess now falling to me, the Los Angeles Chargers after the trade. For us, I think we were looking at, obviously guys like Joe Alt, some of those top end wide receivers. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that Brock Bowers on the board here because, as a matter of fact, like we are looking for a tight end to kind of replace Gerald Everett. Donald Parham is kind of a hybrid tight end wide receiver type, but we also just need an explosive pass catcher. We just lost Keenan Allen. We could go a tackle at this position too, but I also think that there is some good depth toward the end of the first round that we could look at, revisit once we get to our second pick in the first here from Minnesota. So give me the playmaker up top there. Give me Brock Bowers as just a guy I compare immediately with Justin Herbert. I think this is a really nice pairing. I think it would be very fun to watch, very explosive, having these two together in LA. And just very, pleased that a guy of this kind of talent has fallen to me at, pick 11. So we'll keep that offensive line in mind here as we move further down. I have needs at corner as well. So we'll just see how this draft board, plays out.
dude, yeah, this is a match made in heaven, I feel like. Harbaugh, tight end, like I think this totally makes sense. And he kind of, helped cashing, so you kind of kill two birds with one stone. So yeah, I think this, in my opinion, I think this is the ideal draft strategy for the Chargers is trading back, getting more draft capital if they are able to get that trade with the Vikings, right? So that the Vikings can get JJ McCarthy, kind of what's been played out here. I think that makes perfect sense for both parties, really, right? So yeah, this is ideal. This is perfect, I think, for the Chargers. Getting a Brock Bowers, again, helping out with blocking and receiving, getting a receiving weapon for Justin Herbert there.
For sure.
And then, yeah, with that, then I guess moving along here, not going to spend too much time here, I think, with regards to, maybe who they want to take the Broncos here. I mean, Bo Nix just makes too much sense. I think even kind of comparison with him, and Michael Penix, it's like he just fits, I think, Sean Payton and what he tries to do on offense to the T. So it's much more about fit. Maybe I am a little bit more of a Penix fan a little bit. I know a lot of people have hyped him up for sure. He definitely has an injury history, which obviously has killed his draft stock. But Nix is definitely a processor and knows how to kind of just get the ball at his hands. And I think that's what Sean Payton wants. So to me, it makes perfect sense. And I think they kind of just take him here and kind of move on with the rest of the draft plans here. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense.
And then
So
I
I got
guess
three
move on.
teams here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was gonna say, yeah. Well, who are you looking at now?
Yeah, I mean, ditto on Bo Nix to the Broncos. I feel like that's a pick that, we've discussed for a while here and definitely feel comfortable there. When I get to 13 with the Raiders, this is the part in the draft where I think in past drafts I'd go with Penix here just to be safe, but let's do a trade down scenario. I feel like Las Vegas has their normal 1 to 7, round draft picks, so they have like their complete haul. But they have a team where I think they do need some depth. I think they could benefit from having a little bit more depth, and I think they have the security of moving down either to pick 18, 19, or 25 here to the Bengals, Rams, or Green Bay Packers. The question I need to pose is which one of those teams would be eager enough to move up and provide some additional draft capital for, let's say, Talise Fuaga to be kind of that, big body tackle that could just, keep their quarterback upright, be that, 5-year or more type fixture in their line. I think those three teams are all in the hunt for a tackle. It's just who's the hungriest for it. And I think Green Bay might actually be a good, trade partner here, just for the sake that Bakhtiari has been, cut from the team. It's a little bit uncertain with who they may go for, but their competition's getting a little, steeper here in the NFC North. They probably want to keep up with everybody and keep, Jordan Love healthy as well. So, they've got a couple
Mhm.
seconds, they've got a couple thirds, they've got a fourth, a fifth, a couple six, a couple sevens. I don't know. What if we just threw them, the 25th overall pick, and let's say one of those thirds, maybe the 3.88, 3.91, like would that be enough, or do you think the Raiders would ask for like one of those seconds along with this first?
I might. I mean, I would definitely if I'm the Raiders. Like, yeah, give me that second. I think the question that obviously is like, you could, if I'm the Raiders, right? You could do this trade, and then like, does Penix fall to the second then, and then you can take him with that second round pick, right? I mean that they do have a second round pick here too, so they can either take him at that 41st potentially, or the 58th. And then, or just, yeah, the 44th year, I think I've already mentioned. So one of those second round picks, they can certainly take Michael Penix if he falls that far. If you feel confident that he's going to get past what the Seahawks, right? Maybe they do want to move on from Geno Smith, or at least kind of get groomed his replacement in a way. I know they have some backups there too, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, Penix, he's a hometown hero now. So that could be a possibility. But yeah, I think for the sake of this, I think let's see if I can swing out this. I'm gonna go with the 41st pick, right? Let's see, maybe yeah, because screw Green Bay, right? Maybe they do that, and but honestly, like it kind of does make sense. Like, do you trust Walker right at that left tackle position? He's played decent, but getting a Fuaga, like that could be a franchise type of move there. So let's go with that pick, move on from there. But yeah, I think that's a good question to pose for the Raiders then is, yeah, you can move back in that draft, still take, I think there's going to be some secondary, which I know it is something that they're also considering as well. Whereas, how does it get actually rejected? I don't know how it got rejected.
Try it
No.
again with like a lower
Let's see
pick
what we can.
in the second or maybe in the third. But in general, to your point on Penix is, you know, if I'm the Raiders and I absolutely want to have Michael Penix and I want to have a quarterback that I'm very confident about moving forward, I feel like waiting to the second round, like pick 41, 58, like I don't know, man. That just seems ballsy to me. Like it seems like they're playing with fire if like they're really sure about him. And I think, he'd merit a late first in this situation. But like, especially if you can make, swing a
Yeah.
first round deal where you're, basically swapping out first and getting a little extra capital, like that extra capital is where I would play around with other positions. I'd be very
Yeah.
wouldn't be too comfortable. I wouldn't be sitting too comfortably if I was wanting Penix and just trying to wait a couple more rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe take him that first, that 25th pick there, and then you can obviously solidify other areas in the second round there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put in this Green Bay first in the 25th pick here, just so that the trade. I think that would, hopefully they didn't reject it from the Green Bay side, but I'm gonna see if that goes through here. Maybe it is the Green Bay side. Okay. Huh. Let's see. 13th. I wonder what we can do to even it up here now.
Yeah, maybe throwing some first from the Raiders side. We should just try to force it to a point where it makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
for Green Bay to say yes.
Yeah. You think, I don't know. Do you think something like that might work? Let's see.
I think this might work.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to keep.
If I,
I would almost like put a lot of picks from the Raiders side to Green Bay just to force it for this exercise, and then I think most people like us who are breaking this down are going to say,
Yeah.
as long as we switch the slots for this exercise, I think most people would understand like this is a possibility, even if the simulator is being
Okay.
stubborn.
Yeah. Let's see if that does it there. I think that. Oh, okay. Let's see if I can actually find a great one here. Let's see. Green Bay. Confirm. So let's see. You think that
You should like
25th?
stack it. You should stack the Raiders offer the 2025 picks to Green Bay for that 25, and then see what like offer them the first 3 picks in 25, and then see if that helps to get him excited.
Something like, you think something like that? 25th?
Yeah, because for the purposes of this exercise, we won't go into the second round. So like whatever we do give up for that swap to happen, we just want that swap so we can see it.
Yeah, I don't know who's rejecting who exactly, or where is it? Okay, it went through. That's all that
Yeah.
matters. So
Nice.
okay,
All
with
right.
that, yeah. So with that 13th pick, who does Green Bay get?
Well, give him Fuaga at this point. Give him Fuaga.
Okay,
That's why they made that deal. They want to just be able to protect Love for the foreseeable future.
there we go. Okay, Fuaga, Packers. There we go. There.
How about the
Awesome.
Saints?
Okay, man. No, I think that's good because now with the Saints, right? I think they were also possibly thinking offensive line as well, right? There's been that whole Penning experiment. He really hasn't turned out that well. So I think they're also thinking offensive line. Um, could they go, cornerback potentially? But honestly, looking at the offensive line here, seeing what's around, I know a lot of people, he's been kind of up and down in a lot of areas here, but I'm going to go ahead and go take JC Latham. A lot of people like him in that right tackle spot, I guess. We'll see how he fits in there. He definitely has been rising and falling in some draft boards, but I think he's got some good talent. And I think the Saints are kind of desperate for offensive line. So I'm going to go JC Latham here, actually. I think he can he's kind of a mauler, and I think he could potentially fit. Then I think what the Saints are trying to go here. So I'm going to go ahead, take J.C. Latham here.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. At 15,
Cool.
the fact that the Colts have been trying, at least in the press, very hard to move up to grab one of those top 3 wide receivers, it makes me think that their need there is far more desperate than I ever thought it, possibly was. Just looking at their roster and looking at, who they have there already to go out and catch passes, which I think overall the core, especially bringing Pittman back, I know they got Alec Pierce. They've got another Josh Downs was a great burner for them last year. Like that to me is a solid enough core, but it sounds like they're really adamant about grabbing another, game breaking wide receiver. And to me, like in a lot of the mocks that we've held so far, we've had this guy a little bit further down our board, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. to the Colts makes a lot of sense. Like if that's really the route they're trying to take, it seems like
Mm,
why I don't know why give up unnecessary draft capital if you can still get a stud, at the position there, and you've already got Pittman, you've already got Downs to really like help open up that field. Like you bring Thomas in for deep balls and things, like he's gonna make that offense like so explosive and so much fun to watch. And yeah, I'm gonna pick him there at 15. I think that's safe. We've gone many of different routes
okay.
with the Colts at that pick, but I'm gonna go there for now.
I mean, it could be the like. I mean, yeah. I think people will question. It's like, don't they like need some defense? But to your point, you can never feel like have enough offensive talent. With a young quarterback in Anthony Richardson, right? But then also, who's the head coach? He's a good offensive mind. I'm sure he can figure out what to do with all those weapons there and how to utilize Anthony Richardson. So definitely a fun pick there, I would say, for the Colts. So cool. And then I guess moving on here to the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, there's definitely been a number of, I think, uh, players that have been, kind of up and down in terms of the draft positions here or who they take here, but they really just need offensive line help. They just need it bad. I feel like, especially on the interior. I've seen Jackson Powers Johnson on there, but I think you got to go with the hometown hero, Troy Fontenot. I think I've picked him before, maybe previously. I think it just makes a ton of sense with what they're trying to do. They also have the Seahawks, or the new Seahawks, actually coach Fontenot at Washington, so he doesn't have to teach him too much in terms of the offensive scheming. So, yeah, it just makes a ton of sense here. I think for them, maybe not the sexiest pick, but I think it's a good pick. I think overall for the Seahawks.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. A pick that we've discussed before at that slot. And yeah, I mean, they're shoring up some of their weaknesses and taking a guy in a right spot for him, in my opinion, too. Like, I don't think they're reaching at all by grabbing Fontenot there over some of the other talent that's still left up, on this board. Um, at 17 with Jacksonville, this is a tough toss up for me because I feel like at corner, it's an area that they've been thinning out, further in. I mean, even their secondary as a whole. I know they lost Rayshon Jenkins as well as in the safety department. So it's like they're down men. They were already a pretty weak secondary last year. We've discussed this pick before with other corners. It just comes down to Quinyon Mitchell for me and Terrion Arnold. Mitchell seems like the home run play. I feel like if this was a smarter defensive minded team, if this was a defensive minded coach or a guy who already has a solid secondary in place, just needs a corner, I'd go ahead and take Mitchell. I think he is a little bit of a riskier play overall, just because he's a little bit rawer with his skill set. I mean, he's kind of emerging more recently than a guy like Arnold, who's kind of established himself as more of a polished high IQ type. I feel like he's a plug and play, cover corner there. That I feel like if I am Jacksonville and I'm already having troubles in my defense, I just don't want to. I don't want to pick wrong here. I want to absolutely nail this pick, and I just feel like Terrion Arnold here is like the safer of the two choices, even if maybe Quinyon Mitchell's ceiling's a tick higher.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to go with that pick. That I mean, he's an Alabama product. He's got the pedigree and such like that. For that, I definitely have seen Quinyon Mitchell be QB1. I know a lot of former cornerbacks like him, so it's really just going to be up to preference, honestly, with that. So, but I can definitely respect your reasoning of like, you want that solidified person rather than taking. Quinyon Mitchell is definitely much more the. I guess he has a higher upside, but then his ceiling is a little bit lower as well. So yeah, can respect the safe pick there. And then yeah, you talked about, was it Trey Richardson too? Like potentially maybe moving on from the Bengals here. And hey, you know what? They always say you can never have too many pass rushers in the NFL. So why not? I'm just gonna take Laiatu Latu here. I think why not see what happens there with Trey Richardson. And he can definitely be a rotational player at first, for the Bengals. But yeah, getting some pass rushing help again is always something that I think most teams need. And yeah, get the people going there. If they're gonna see Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, right? Like you gotta attack him. You gotta attack him and make sure he doesn't throw the ball. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take that pick and see what happens there. So but yeah, I'm gonna see Lat.
It's a smart pick for them. I mean, I feel like right now they're a team that's a little bit in flux. I mean, T. Higgins wants out. Trey Hendrickson just said he wants out. They lost DJ Reader, a D tackle. Going into this year, I think they need some offensive line help. Like, there's a lot of things in Cincinnati that outside of Burrow and Chase, like they're gonna be like scrambling for this year. This might be a different team than we're used to in Cincinnati, but I think Latu is a smart choice here, especially at this stage of the draft. I mean, a guy that a lot of folks think is the top edge rusher in this draft, just kind of falling because of a little bit of uncertainty on his injury history. Like, I think it's worth the gamble here, especially for a team vying for that Super Bowl glory. You want to have guys that you can hit home runs with, and that's probably one of them right there.
Yeah, for sure. You got the Rams there at 19 now.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of home runs and the type of coaches that will go ahead and shoot for those home runs. I mean, we talked about Aaron Donald a little bit in the last session here, but the fact that Quinion Mitchell is now fallen a little bit down this board, I didn't think that he'd be available to us for the Los Angeles Rams, but we do have a need at cornerback. I think this is the kind of guy. He's got great ball skills. He can tackle. He's definitely emerged since the Senior Bowl, and I think McVay is like the perfect type of coach to pair him with. He just understands football, understands talent, and this could be another guy who kind of comes in like a Jalen Ramsey that just makes a lot of sense for the Rams. I also just like the fact that the Rams have so much draft capital that any sort of shots they're taking early, like they've got to be home runs, Like I just feel like they're not going to settle for a marginal talent when they have, more bullets in the chamber. So yeah, give me Quinion Mitchell, and I think just a really solid pick for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was always thinking like, it's either a cornerback. If Quinn Mitchell's there, like, I think he definitely has that upside for sure. So to just be a complete shutdown corner. They have Kobe Turner, they have Byron Young, so they have some young defensive linemen there that have had a decent impact in their kind of initial rookie seasons. So building up on the secondary, I think, is probably the next move for them there. So I think that's a good solid pick for them there. Now looking at the Steelers need offensive line help. Like I think that's been the biggest biggest observations anybody's really seen there. And man, there's some pretty decent interior offensive line help here. And wow, I don't know how I'm gonna not take a player like Jackson Powers Johnson here. I'm gonna go ahead and take him here. I know a lot of people. He's kind of like this folklore of a offensive center here. So I think he kind of makes sense. They're building up on the offensive line. If he wants to be guard for a little bit there too, or center. But he's going to be one of the top centers, I think, in the NFL for years to come. And I think that's going to be really valuable there for Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, kind of getting that all situated there. So yeah, hopefully then Justin Fields doesn't have that interior pressure whenever he does take over. I think for Russell Wilson is my guessing there.
Makes a lot of sense. Steelers, have a pretty poor offensive line as it is. So to get the premier prospect at center, I think it's a smart play, especially for a team that has brought over that new quarterback depth and is trying to kind of solidify themselves on offense. Like this is a good building block piece. So that makes a lot of sense for me.
Cool. You got the Dolphins taking.
Man, yeah, this one's tough. They've lost a lot of edge depth. They lost Van Ginkel, they lost Jalen Phillips to injury last year. We'll see how he, rebounds going into this year. I know another one of their guys went down with a pretty significant injury heading into the playoffs. Not sure what the timeline is. I can't recall the name offhand, but I just know this team is, down in that category. They're also, on the hunt for some offensive line help as well. I just think that Jared Verse being available here makes a lot of sense for them. It's a very comfortable fit. Another Florida guy, kind of moving right over, allows them to kind of plug and play him as a starter right there while some of those guys come back from injury. Obviously, with some guys gone to free agency as well. It's just somebody they can build with over the years. Premier edge prospect here, and yeah, I think it just makes sense for a team that's going to be vying for, a deep run here in the playoffs. Like this is their year with the Bills kind of taking a bit of a step back so far from what we've seen. So like the AFC East is up for grabs, and it's kind of it's on them to kind of make that push.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. And Verse, I think it might be like he was actually like I guess one of my more favorite players coming out of college, just a good leader too on the defensive side of the ball. So I think he can really help elevate that side of the ball. Obviously, Dolphins really much more known for their offense, and Mike Daniels. Obviously, they need some interior offensive line help for sure. But at the same time, like I feel like McDaniels can figure out what to do with almost with like second and third round type of guards and interior offensive linemen there. So I would feel pretty comfortable with something like that. Build up the defense more of, get younger. I think that's where they definitely need some help there. So definitely like the pick, I think, for Jared Verse here. And then moving on, 22nd pick. Man, this Eagles team, their secondary, it's old. It's old. They need to get younger. They need to get younger, I think, fast. And there's some pretty decent off defensive backs here. I'm gonna go ahead and take Nate Wiggins. I think he makes a ton of sense here. He's got that, everybody talks about the length that he has, and I think that he can do wonders with this defense here. New coaching now for the Eagles, and yeah, I think he can just be kind of a shutdown corner that I know a lot of Eagles fans like out of the corners and what their defense is known for. And this defensive secondary kind of sucked this past year, and having Clemens or Wiggins in there, I think he'll be helpful for them for the years to come.
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect pick. Especially watching them last year, missed tackles, misreads. They got absolutely torn apart in the playoffs by the Bucks, but it wasn't unlike anything we saw, in those previous 5 or 6 games before they headed into the playoffs. Like their secondary is just getting exploited. So they definitely need some shoring up there. They need to bring some new energy in, some new, just new names, new players in general, and just kind of change that mix up a bit. But that's a great pick at that position.
Yeah, for sure. Who do you got the Chargers there now taking at the 23rd pick?
Yeah, so this worked out perfectly for me. I feel like making that trade down, getting a like a top playmaker in Brock Bowers. I'm looking at one of his teammates here, right on the board, a guy that had my eye on as an offensive tackle prospect as it was. He's right there for me to take. He's a monster. He's a little bit raw. You need some fine tuning, obviously, but you can't teach 6'7", 340 plus pounds. And I think, Jim Harbaugh with his experience overall, just building, run games and offensive lines, like this is the perfect guy for him. So slide over Amarius Mims to the Chargers. And I think everybody in that room is giving each other high fives for making that trade.
Oh man, it's gonna be orgy if they if they do something like this in that draft room. Like it'll be nuts, I think for sure. Like again, yeah, that's a perfect pick. I feel like for the Chargers and what they're all about here. So great pick. That is a great pick. I would say there. Oh man. Well, looks like here we got the Cowboys. Cowboys. I think we've kind of toyed with offensive line help in the past. But I'm looking at the two top. I think they also need some defensive line help as well, and I'm seeing some two prime defensive tackles here in both Newton, Byron Murphy. But I'm gonna take the guy in Texas, Byron Murphy. I think pairing him up on the defensive side of the ball with Michael Parsons over there, I think that would be humongous. I think that would just create havoc there on the defensive line for an already, pretty good, or I should say, like really good defense there, and just creating a superior pass rush, kind of alleviating some of the pressure off of Michael Parsons to create that pass rush. So Byron Murphy, man, I think that would be a great pick. Yeah, having him in there at the 24th pick.
Yeah, no, that seems like a perfect fit for them. Could definitely, beef up that defensive line. I think with Micah Parsons too. I mean, just that'd be pretty disgusting. Just the fact that they're pairing, those kind of guys up and kind of building on the defensive year that they had last year. So I think it's a great fit. We've discussed it before, and yeah, it finally played out in one of our drafts.
Yeah, for sure. All right. It looks like, yeah, the Raiders, this trade back that they had there, now with the 25th pick. Who do you got them taking?
Yeah, so this was, part of the plan. Depending on what the deal is, I know we had to do some crazy things on the simulator to figure out, how we make this trade actually happen in exercise. But in reality, if they can get a second round, maybe a third rounder, who knows what it is, like just some additional capital to help build their team out. I think it just makes most sense to go ahead and take Penix here. You're getting him at a discount in terms of the draft capital you'd have to spend if you took him at 13. So like just to move back. Like, I don't know if the Broncos will have the same kind of gut feel about their pick at 12 with Bo Nix, but for guys like this, they do feel like late first rounders, early seconds, but I just can't take that gamble, can't roll that dice, and like to think that Penix is just going to be available in the second round to me at 41 or 58 or whatever else it could be. So, yeah, give him to me here. I feel good about that, and with the additional capital I have, I'll go ahead and fill out those other needs.
Yeah, no, I think this is great, and I think he fits kind of more so of what is it? Trying to remember now the offensive
Getsy?
coordinator that the Bears just Getsy, because I know he's the offensive coordinator now there with the Raiders. I think he kind of fits what Getsy ideally likes, right? A little bit of that kind of somewhat Aaron Rodgers-ish. Now, not to say that Penix is Aaron Rodgers or whatever, but someone has more of that arm talent, can make the reads, and just has kind of rock it in there. So I feel like that's a great fit overall for Penix, and has some good wideouts there as well. So definitely, I think is ideal for him there. And then I guess moving on here to the Buccaneers. This Bucks team, they're pretty decent, I would say, in like a number of different areas overall. But I think they could definitely use a corner here. And just kind of looking at the board, uh, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take Kool-Aid here. I think Kool-Aid makes sense. I think having him in there, yeah, well, with Jamel Dean, he's been hurt a bunch, so I think just they want some consistency here. So gonna go ahead and take Kool-Aid. Alabama cornerbacks, man, they always have that history of just kind of performing well, and Kool-Aid over there. I mean, I think that's a match made in heaven, right?
Sounds pretty good. Kool-Aid in Tampa Bay. I think that just sounds really refreshing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So now we get to
Cool.
Arizona.
Now with the 27th pick.
Yeah. This is our second first. We took Marvin Harrison, just the most, dynamic wide receiver possible. We're super happy about that. I think, we've got a handful of different needs. We need some line help on offense. We need some line help on D. We do have a need at cornerback as well. I feel like Cooper DeJean's sitting here for us. Like, that didn't seem like a possibility. It didn't really seem like a scenario we were really thinking about. I mean, this is a guy who's arguably one of the best cornerback prospects in this draft, or maybe secondary prospects for the fact that maybe he can play multiple positions. I mean, somebody who's really, uh, disciplined. He's got a really good, football IQ skill set there. I mean, he maybe lacks a little bit in the explosiveness category, but if there's something that the Cardinals kind of need, I think they need some more like disciplined leader types, like guys who can, help rally the troops. I mean, I like Buda Baker. I've always liked him as, one of their leaders in Arizona, but like they'll need more guys like that. And I think, this is a good foundational piece for them. The fact that they had a need there and they also get somebody of his, standing right now. So yeah, give me DeJean there. And yeah, that's a great first round for us.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a pretty loaded draft, and I feel like the Cardinals can do a number of different things here, whether it's trade up, trading back. It really doesn't matter really that much. But yeah, Cooper DeJean, I'm kind of surprised he kind of fell here for sure. So, but yeah, that really that definitely helps out their defense. And that secondary, I think for sure. And I guess moving on to the Bills here. Bills have had a fun offseason, I guess now with no Stephon Diggs. So wide out definitely is a thing. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take a wide out here. I think there's definitely been this bounce around between Keon Coleman, 80 Mitchell, Xavier Worthy as well. I think in my opinion, I mean, 80 Mitchell, he's kind of up and down. He has a lot of the physical traits and tools. But part of me is also thinking like, do the Bills kind of want somebody that has that experience more so of and is has had a history of doing well and running, is a decent right runner too. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take Keon Coleman here. Yeah, not as explosive as AD Mitchell, but in my opinion, a little bit more refined. And I think that maybe that's kind of what they're searching for at this point. So yeah, I'm going to take Keon Coleman. Maybe not as much upside as some of those Texas wideouts, but I think he's always been like this solid type of wideout. So I'm going to go ahead and take him here.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, Buffalo is going to have a really hard decision to make. I think at that pick, just given the amount of wide receiving prospects that kind of get categorized or clumped together in that back end of the first round. So it feels somewhat of a dice roll at this point. But I would say a lot of their guys that they have currently on the roster seem to play like a little bit underneath. Like you've got, obviously Dalton Kincaid
Mm-hmm.
and um, Shakur. It's like I'm not really sure. Curtis Samuel, like a lot of guys who seem like more of like your slot types, or maybe you're like your short, yardage types, where a guy like Keon Coleman could be more or less like your big play threat. Seems like it could be a good fit. Like, and this could go in a lot of different directions. I'm not really, too sure like how this is all going to play out at the pro level for some of these prospects. But like, yeah, AD Mitchell like seems to have the body type, but may lack some of like the finesse there. And we'll just have to see. Like, I think it's a safe pick for them. They definitely need the help there, and I'm sure that Keon Coleman's going to be a good player for them.
Sounds good. Yeah, who's there now at Detroit, where the draft is going to be taking place now? They're at 29.
I know. Yeah, we're lucky to have it here. Yeah, in general, a great corner would have made a lot of sense for us. I don't feel like that value is still left on the board. A lot of the great ones have already gone. Our secondary was kind of a nightmare, especially playing on that NFC championship game last year. But we also need help on the offensive line a bit at guard, and then looking at an edge defender type. But Chop Robinson there makes a ton of sense for us. Across from Hutchinson. I mean, this is a freak type athlete. I mean, they're calling him like an alien like athlete in some senses, but grades out as a 91 on PFF as far as prospect rankings go. They love all the athletic makeup of this guy. He just needs a little bit of nurturing, a little bit of fine tuning. I think pairing him with Hutchinson would just make a lot of sense. Would be a good pairing for those two. And then just thinking about the pressure they could apply to the teams in the North. Unfortunately for us as Bears fans, but I think that is a very safe and a very smart choice for them as they kind of try to make the return back to the Super Bowl type ranks moving into this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good pick. Like, they've been slowly kind of addressing the secondary here and there some. So, certainly they could go that route. But yeah, they definitely need more of that pass rush. We're kind of the bottom, I think 10 in sacks last season, even with, Aiden Hutchinson as well. So having him, also see like Newton there too. Like, I think, yeah, just overall solidifying that defensive line in general. But yeah, having another edge rusher opposite Hutchinson totally makes sense here. And I think Robinson makes a ton of sense. I'd also love to see Darius Robinson. He would be a great pick, I think, also for the Lions. I feel like he kind of embodies kind of what they're doing there. But no, I think Chop Robinson is a solid pick overall for sure. So, um, and then looking at the Ravens here, kind of what they need, what could possibly make sense for them. Yeah, they just re-signed Bateman, and yeah, there's no Beckham. I don't know if they take White out here, despite some pretty decent prospects overall. Could they go guard? Possibly, but I feel like maybe they want more tackle. So at the same time, I think they can get somebody that kind of fits a little bit of both and maybe has some upside. I'm gonna go ahead. I see Guyton up there, but I feel like he's not as much of a mauler, which I feel like they like a little bit more of. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Jordan Morgan here. Actually, I think he kind of fits what they're looking for overall. Has a lot of the great physical traits, and has had a battle with some injury history, but at the same time, a lot of upside overall. Again, with those physical traits that he does have. So, yeah, I'm going to take Jordan Morgan here for the Ravens, and one of the better drafting teams out there. So, yeah, I guess keep an eye on who they take here.
Yeah, no, it's a good pick. Somebody I was looking at for the next pick here with the Niners seems like a guy who could definitely fit right into what Baltimore does best. Another great protection piece for Lamar and their new running game. So it should be pretty exciting over there. Um, yeah, I'm kind of looking at what's left over here on the offensive line end for San Francisco. I think we have a lot of needs at line. We do need a tackle pretty badly. Guyton, like you're saying, is maybe a little bit more raw. Needs a lot more fine tuning in both aspects of the offensive game, which doesn't bode well for us because we need to win now. Graham Barton looks really attractive here. I mean, I feel like the fact that he plays multiple positions, he does it very well. He's got a mean streak in the running game itself. We've got Christian McCaffrey behind him. He's a guy I feel like could be a great piece for the future, over a 5-year term, because it's like we're looking for, could he be our guard? Maybe this year, maybe he's our starting center. Maybe we have to kind of fine tune what our line's going to be over the next couple of years. But he seems like a versatile piece to add there, and that was our biggest weakness. So we are also on the hunt for defensive line help after losing Eric Armstead. So we are kind of keeping an eye on that, but I just don't see the value here at this pick. So this could be a great trade down scenario, but in the same sense, I think taking Barton here wouldn't be a mistake. And I think he's a good, you know, personal fit for the team.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent pick, and yeah, we all remember that last play that they had there. Just didn't get Brock Purdy enough time, and that really uh, kind of solidified the Chiefs to win in overtime there. So, or to win the Super Bowl there. So, yeah, it totally makes sense. And then, yeah, last but not least, the Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs here, 32nd pick. They've had kind of an up and down offseason, it sounds like, from Travis Kelsey and his dad bod picks to also Rasheed Rice and his off the field issues. Also losing Snead as well. So they can go a number of different avenues here. I think they do either maybe focus on the secondary or possibly wideout. I think they feel okay with Wanya Morris at least for the time being. Maybe they do get some competition in there. But so with all that being said, I also see Newton on here, which could be intriguing, but they did, kind of re-sign Chris Jones. So yeah, a number of different ways that they can go. But you know, I think they want to win now. I think they want to make some good investments here, and no MVS. I think going right into this upcoming season, I think they maybe want to solidify that more. I see some awesome wideout talent here. I'm gonna go with AD Mitchell here. I think tall, fast, wideout, can kind of blow off the top. I think having him paired with Patrick Mahomes and then also Andy Reid and what he can do on the offensive side, and you know making sure that he's set up for success. I think that would be a match made in heaven, honestly. I say Xavier Worthy there too, and that's good and all, but yeah, I think having a player like AD Mitchell, I think it totally makes sense for the the Chiefs here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think Marquise Brown uh, kind of gives you that, smaller blow the top off type that, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of the mold of a, poor man's Tyreek Hill or, um, you know, he's what Sky Moore was supposed to be in a lot of ways, where you add another piece like that. If you're just going for extra
Hmm.
speed, like it wouldn't hurt to have, a guy like Xavier Worthy, but it just feels like a little bit duplicative from what they already have. So maybe getting a guy with a stronger frame like an AD
Hmm.
Mitchell might be, just a good way to balance it all out. Plus, we don't know when Travis Kelsey's cliff is coming. I feel like last year was kind of our first signs of him not
Yeah.
being unstoppable. Where I think you just need another top tier offensive, playmaker there who I don't know, just changes the mold of what they've been going for over these last few years. It feels like they've kind of been nickel and diming a little bit at wide receiver, and they really just need to build a more stable core.
Yeah, yeah, and also it's like Marquise Brown. They have him for 1 year too, so it's like, all right, we have him, and then we'll see what happens with Rasheed Rice. I think he's practicing, he's doing all these things right. So, um, But yeah, like having just more of a solid young whiteout talent that that is talented there, I think makes sense for the Chiefs. Again, they can go a number of different ways. They could see if there's some other cornerback talent that they can find there. I mean, that ideally could make sense, and maybe they do try to trade up to get like more defensive back talent. So we'll kind of see and what with what the chair, but their biggest struggle last season was on the offensive side of the ball, at least the wideouts. And yeah, we're able to win the Super Bowl there. And yes, they did sign Marquise Brown, but yeah, having a long term solution, like you were mentioning, Kelsey, how many years does he have left? He's living life, from according to my Instagram feed, my Twitter feed, my Facebook feed, my TikTok feed, my YouTube channel, whatever. So I see a lot of him. He seems to be doing okay, and he's got his own sugar mama type of thing going. So yeah, I don't know how many years he's got left, and yeah, when you have a sheer talent like Patrick Mahomes, he makes a lot of wide receivers look good. So yeah, let's see if we can get someone that's kind of raw, but has a lot of the physical traits you want out of a good wideout. So yeah, I think Mitchell kind of makes sense here. But again, they can go a number of different ways here.
For sure. Well, there's the board. There's our first round mock draft board. I think of the three drafts, this one felt the most right to me. I mean, I feel like at each pick, it was maximizing that
Mm.
value. In the same sense, we did incorporate a couple more logical trades here. Some things that maybe went over my head, kind of going through it fully and not seeing it as I look back. I mean, I think the Niners need at offensive line and all the capital they have. I mean, right now they're looking at
Hmm.
they have a first, a second, a third. They've got three fourths. I mean, I think in a way, like they could probably make a move, even a subtle move, just to get one of those tackle prospects in their hands before their competition does. Like it's a
Hmm.
possibility there. But in a lot of ways, I feel like this draft, this run through, feels the most right of the ones that we've thrown out there so far.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Especially if I'm a Chargers fan, I kind of liked how this turned out. I think overall, and then yeah, they can always get wideouts in the later rounds for sure. But given the way that Jim Harbaugh he likes to manufacture his teams with also a Greg Roman, right? Like this totally makes sense. I think for what they're trying to build, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and how they utilize Herbert as well. I think yeah, he's definitely gonna be passing to maybe more second and third rounders. But yeah, it totally makes sense. And having Brock Bowers too, I think will be tremendous again in this offense for Herbert there. So but yeah, overall, like you're mentioning, I think this is kind of accurate to what could potentially be happening. Maybe there will be more trades. We'll see kind of how that all plays out. Again, this is going to be a fun draft, I think, going forth.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to love here? We've got a good amount of wide receiving prospects. We've got maybe up to six quarterbacks win the first round. Like that's pretty unheard of. So I mean, tons of corners. I just feel like this will be a fun one. And yeah, I mean, even looking at this
Yeah.
board back and like just seeing like you know, the amount of good wide receivers that were still left when the Chiefs were up to pick. I mean, that's just showing you how deep this is. I mean, if anything, the offensive line prospects start to thin out a little bit after the first. But I mean, to get Cooper DeJean at 27
Yeah.
for the Cardinals is like, I think a really big steal based on his pedigree. It's just crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 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 and yeah, like back to I think the wide receivers available for the Chiefs, like McConkey as well, yeah, Xavier Worthy. Like if they really want to, just have a bunch of speed around at the wideout position, they can certainly go that route. So a number of different things that the Chiefs can do, and it's like, do you necessarily have to trade up? Maybe not, unless they really like a corner, right? We saw some of those top corners go out there and I think it definitely, I don't say like it takes a back seat maybe in the later rounds, but compared to having a shutdown corner like Snead, right? If they do want to upgrade that position, maybe the Chiefs do want to trade up and kind of solidify that defense, and yeah, maybe they take wideouts in the later rounds more so of again, they do have Kelsey at least for 1 year, and then Rasheed Rice. Hopefully he'll be around, and then Marquise Brown. Like there is some talent there, so maybe they are trying to maybe focus on the defensive side of the ball, or maybe they do upgrade on offensive tackle there. Create more competition for both Juwan Taylor and then Wanya Morris, right? So again, they can go a number of different ways, but yeah, lots of I think with the amount of offensive talent, I think is what's overwhelming here, right? Like I kind of just eyeing like there's probably like 60% of offense, both from quarterbacks, wideouts, offensive linemen, right? Just seems like it's definitely going to be an offensive first round here.
For sure. Any other final thoughts? Things you want to see tomorrow night as far as the draft goes?
Trades. I think it'll be fun. There's probably honestly, I've seen tons of mock drafts, but I feel like there's going to be a trade that none of us, like nobody ever predicted or seen. Like that's just so many variables. I think that can be played out here. Like there's, maybe the Ravens want to trade up, or like you mentioned, the Niners, they got some draft capital. Maybe they want to trade up and take one of those offensive tackles up there. Like that could be amazing. And always want to see what teams get these players that just make the most sense, right? Like getting Amarius Mims right for the Chargers makes total sense. I also have seen mock drafts for him falling to the Ravens, right? That would make a lot of sense. Again, just a mauler, just a physical mauler, right? I feel like uh, putting them in those kind of situations would just be lovely. So again, I just kind of want to see those things, great trades and then great fits. They just make like, oh wow, that's a perfect fit for that player there.
No doubt. Yeah. If anything, the only thing I don't necessarily want to see is maybe the Bears either drafting at that position, taking a tackle. If they were to take Fashanu or Latham or something, like that might throw me a little bit off. I think last year, I think we chose right in getting Darnell Wright, but it still was like I was still losing a little bit of air watching that pick, especially if we don't trade down a little bit.
Mhm.
I just feel like it's the mechanics of it. Like I want to be wowed tomorrow night with that second Bears pick in the first round. Like if we do trade down, like I'll be interested to see what we get, and I'll be supportive of it. But if it is one of those like caught me out of nowhere surprise Bears picks, I'm gonna be like, what? Like WTF? But otherwise, man, I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy this all because this board, running through it tonight just looks like so much fun, and there's so many possibilities, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing this all play out.
Yeah, I know for sure. Yeah, NFL draft time. This is about the nerds. I think it's finally like we're gonna figure out where everybody goes, right? I think that's where the resolution is gonna happen. We've all been going crazy. I think I've seen people do like 8 mock drafts on their YouTube channels. It's like, all right, that's enough now. So glad it's here. It's gonna be over by the end of this weekend here. So looking forward to kind of what happens and occurs here. We have very excited about the draft for the Bears going forth. Excited to see what Ryan Poles does. Excited to see, getting Caleb Williams, hopefully our franchise quarterback forever and such. So just looking forward to all that.
No doubt. Yeah. In Caleb and in Ryan Poles, we trust at this point. So looking forward to that. But if you're still with us out
Yeah.
there, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Obviously, follow along as we produce more content here. We'll maybe have some sort of mock, some real life draft review in the coming weeks. Talk baseball, other things as well. Maybe some special guests. But thanks for all your support. With Wayne and Patrick, signing off with the Ball and Breakfast Podcast.